everyone. I'm Nicole Harris.
And I'm Callie Tessier.
And this is our podcast, Between Two
Fans. Today, our guest is Director of Fleet Sales, Tom Kleich. Tom, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I started out as a technician back in the day, and when I applied for the job at Horton, they were looking for a technical person that could work in customer service because Horton was much smaller back then. A lot of the engineers were taking tech calls, and started getting pretty busy doing that. And they wanted somebody that could handle that and kind of be the go-between. So I started taking tech calls and doing customer service stuff. And then I kind of transitioned from there. I did that for a couple of years, and then I transitioned into more of a marketing role because they were looking for somebody to do technical literature and cataloging and things like that. And that kind of rolled into like a product management role because the other thing we didn't have back then is somebody kind of coordinating efforts between the salespeople and the engineers and the plants and everything. And so I got into that role, kind of kept track of everything on a big spreadsheet back in the day. But it worked out well because then the salespeople come to me and they say, all right, the customer's looking for this product. I would coordinate it, whether we needed, the drawing or a prototype or pricing and any of that stuff, and then kind of start the release process. And that worked out pretty well. I did it for, 5 or 10 years, something like that. And in that role, I kind of got into more of a sales role because I would be the backup for the salespeople if they couldn't go. And I started going on calls with them, and I really enjoyed that. So then one of our salesperson retired, and he was doing international at the time. So I took on international truck and engine and handled that account for a lot of years, probably 15, 17 years, something like that.
Wow. Okay.
So
nice.
Really enjoyed that. And then throughout the years, I've kind of had different roles. So I've handled every OE in my career. So I've done Volvo Mack, I've done Packer, which is Peterbilt Kenworth, I've done Daimler, which is Freightliner, Western Star, FCCC, all that kind of stuff. But I've always kind of been on the truck side. And then I became the director of OE sales. And then I had a team that worked for me, and they handled the accounts. And how we got into the fleet role is kind of like one day I was sitting there, and my group was in place, doing a really good job, and I was always pretty vocal how we don't do a good job calling on fleets. We used to years ago, and we kind of got away from that. And at the OE level, you can position your product, but if there's options, and the fleets have options, you need somebody in there kind of working with them and kind of show them our products and services and things like that. More of a pull-through kind of thing. So I started calling on fleets in Arkansas while I was still in the OE role, and had some success. I went over a couple fleets there, and if you don't know Arkansas, there's about 8 big fleets there, so I was doing national accounts.
Okay.
And that's when my boss and our president, Cordell, came up and said, how'd you like to do this full time? And I said, I think I'd like that, and I think we need to. So that's about 3 years ago, maybe 3.5 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
And then COVID hit, and that was real interesting. So couldn't go see the customers, but I called them and emailed them, and I got to know them kind of over the phone. And when things did open up, they really appreciated that because they said, a lot of people kind of went away during COVID, but you kind of stayed in touch, and so
you still made an effort to be there.
Yeah, I tried to make an effort to be there. So they kind of, a lot of them said, yeah, come on in, let's kind of talk through the program. So that's kind of how I got into this role and really enjoy it.
Nice.
Very cool. So you've always been in truck then? You've never really been in like off highway?
I had a little stint in off highway, but then my heart's, I guess, in truck. I love truck. Yeah, I've been there forever, like I said, 38 years, so yeah.
Wow, okay. Very
Nice.
cool.
So what classifies a fleet vehicle?
Well, fleet is basically any more than one truck.
Okay.
So, and I do the big national accounts, but I also do some smaller fleets if they're in the area. But, there's owner-operators that own their own truck. And then if they have, the fleet is kind of like as you start adding trucks, it becomes a fleet of trucks.
Okay.
Okay. Could you tell us kind of what common products from Horton are on these fleet trucks?
Yeah, so it really depends on the vocation. So I do a lot of over-the-road trucks, and the on-off fan drive seems to be a pretty good value for that. It's our Deem Advantage on-off. That's after SCR came in and kind of cooled the underhood temperatures, and It used to be all on-off back in the day, and then it slowly became, different things came out like 2 speeds and variable speeds and all that stuff. So now today, on-off is a pretty good value, I tell fleets, because you get good fuel economy. It's usually standard on the application, and it'll go the distance. But those fleets that do more like heavy haul and bulk hauling, vocational like refuse, cement trucks, things like that, I recommend more of like a 2-speed or variable speed product. So
Okay. But you're kind of the one that kind of handles that discussion with the customer, correct?
Correct. Yeah, they kind of look. Obviously, we're the experts on the fan drive side, and they
Yep.
appreciate that because they're like, "Okay, I'm trying to spec my truck. I want to make sure I spec it right, so I don't have problems,
Yep.
and get the best value out of it. What would you recommend?" And that's kind of I go through the options with them, and so today on truck, you can, like I said, you can either get the on-off, the variable speed, or 2-speed,
Okay.
depending on the application.
So is fleet kind of part of aftermarket then, since these trucks have already been built by the OEs?
Yeah, fleet actually drives the aftermarket, right? They're the ones that use the products. So the dealers, distributors out there, they're all calling on the fleets and trying to sell their products and services. Horton products are readily available, which is great. So when I talk to the fleet, I say, well, who do you like to buy from? And some fleets like to buy through a combination, OE and distributors, some just distributors, some just the OE. But it doesn't matter because our parts are everywhere. And so I tell them, I just kind of work with them. I say, I just want you to buy Horton products. So
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you get them from.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so do Horton products have like a specific maintenance schedule, or is it all just kind of you put it on and you're done?
Well, that's one thing I've worked on too. While I got in this job, I found that, and being a technician with my background, I was like, it'd be really nice if we kind of simplified things for these fleets. So
Right.
What I ended up doing is creating like a repair options guide, especially on their pneumatics, right? With variable speed, you really there's no maintenance to it. Something happens to it, you typically have to replace the fan drive. With pneumatics, meaning either the on-off or 2-speed, you can actually rebuild them. So typically we say we can either put a seal kit in it if it's leaking air, as long as the liner's still good.
Okay.
So we came up with liner gauges, a little plastic gauge that they can measure. You can also measure with a tape measure, but we did the liner gauge. So I always tell the fleets, if it comes in, typically, the only thing I ever see anymore is maybe an air leak once in a while. And if it comes in with an air leak, the next thing you want to do is measure the liner, right? If the liner is good, all you really need is a seal kit.
Okay.
If the liner is worn down, then you're going to need either a clutch pack kit or a reman. And Horton has a full line of reman. So it really depends how comfortable that fleet is and with their technicians and rebuilding the product versus replacing it. So I came up with that repair options, and I'll say, okay, if it is an air leak, and I did videos around that, and we have this sheet that has little QR codes, and so I laminated this so the technicians can
that.
put it in their toolbox,
Yes,
and if they get
and they'll
greasy, they
always
can
have
wipe it
it.
off, right?
Yep.
But they don't repair fan drives very often, so it might be maybe once a quarter, once a month, however it is, and if it comes in, then they can actually scan the QR code to see, okay, I'm just going to put a seal kit in there. How do I do that, right?
Okay.
Same thing. And then we made our clutch packs universal. So we have what we call a drac bearing in the pulley. And then we came out with that years ago. And the bearing is, I tell fleets, it's really a 1,000,000-mile bearing. And you shouldn't really have to pull that bearing out of there. If you're rebuilding it, I tell them to check it. But most cases, you just need this clutch pack kit. And taking the bearing out, that was the difference in the kit as far as what application it fits. So there's some longer fan drives, there's some shorter fan drives, and the bearings be longer or shorter depending on that. So once we pull that out, the kits become universal. So we did a universal kind of pre-assembled clutch pack, which makes it super simple for the fleets. It has both pilots. It's got a 5-inch pilot, which is on a Peterbilt Kenworth. It also has a 2.56 pilot that goes on more your like Internationals, Volvo Max, or Freightliners. So so you really just have, if you had one seal kit, one clutch pack kit, you can cover everything that's coming in because a lot of the fleets run multiple vehicles. So, yeah.
Are those like pretty accessible? Because are they in like our quick ship warehouses? Do you have to order directly from Horton? Can you get it through distributors?
Yeah, the fleets can't order directly from Horton. They do have to go through a distributor or dealer.
Okay.
They can access, we have 14 quick ship warehouses throughout U.S. and Canada.
Okay.
And our goal with those is to try to get product availability within the next day ground, right? And we've been able to do that. So the fleets can always get their trucks up and running very quickly. If it's not in the OES PDCs or the distributor big warehouses, we'll have it in a quick ship, so the parts are readily available. But they can't order direct. In the quick ship warehouses, they order through the direct ship programs of either distributors or dealers. But there's also a will call option. If they're close enough, they can go pick it up after they order it. It's kinda cool.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So typically their truck downs aren't for very long.
not with our product.
That's good.
They do go down for other reasons.
Yeah.
Which
But not
they can
with
be down
Horton
for a while,
product.
and that's really hard on fleets because they need
Yep.
to keep those trucks running. That's how they make their money. So,
Okay.
Nice.
yeah.
Do you have any like super fun Horton stories for us?
Related to fleet or not related to fleet?
Yeah, I've
either
got
one.
a couple. I guess one that comes to mind. It's kind of fun when I'm doing this job. I develop really good relationships with the fleets. I really like to pride myself on customer service and follow through. And I always tell them, put me to the test. Call me,
Yeah.
email me, text me. If I'm on vacation, I'll have our service manager Dale back me up. Or now we got Mitch is going to be helping with fleets. Mitch has been with the company 15 years as well. Dale's been with the company as long as I have. So we got
Yep.
a lot of tenure, and we're both all technical people. So, but anyways, I just want to make sure they're taken care of. So I say, put me to the test. Call me. I'll be there when you need me. But I had this one customer actually had a truck right around the block from us here, and they were telling us it's going to be 2 weeks for his truck to be down. And I said, let me go over there and see what's going on. Well, it just was basically a situation where the dealer didn't know how to repair our product, right? That's another reason I did this training, because I do give it to the dealers, distributors too, and say if a product comes in and it has an ear leak, in this case it was a modular clutch on an international truck, and they can actually do it on the vehicle. You just take the clutch apart, and you just put this little blue cartridge we have internal in our product, and it takes less than a half hour. So I went over
Right.
there, and I had a cartridge here. I went over there, I showed the dealer. Truck was out and running, and before I even got back to our office, the truck was out the door, and I got an email from my
Wow.
customer saying, "You the man." I don't know what you did, but my truck is on the road. And I said, it's really not, it's just an awareness thing. It's a training thing. It's,
Right.
And then, so when I work with fleets, I got to work with them, and I work with their call centers, because they'll get calls if their truck is in a dealer or distributor. And it's like, well, you guys need to guide them on what they need to do. And you can give them my repair options, literature. They can actually have a PDF they can send them and say, this is what we want you to do to the truck, rather than a lot of the dealers or distributors that just over-repair it. They'll just replace the fan drive, mostly with
Yeah.
a new one, right? And that's
Yep.
really expensive for the fleet, and they're like, oh, that was expensive. But if you can go with just putting a seal kit in, it's a lot less expensive. They can get it running, and their parts are readily available.
I feel like a lot of people, they'll like one thing will be wrong and they'll be like, we have to just redo the whole thing. A lot of them will be like, it might just be easier.
Yeah, well, a lot of the techs out there, they have to know so much, right? The truck
Yep.
they're pretty complicated. You
Yeah.
gotta know a lot of things.
There's a
right?
lot going on under the hood.
Oh yeah. So I was telling them it's nice to be able to do this training. We have LMS training as well. We do the learning management. We can send out online, and they can take watch these videos that I made. They can take a test and they get a certificate.
Oh, very
So I
cool.
can send that out to the fleets. I can send it out to dealers, distributors. We have it online on our Horton website. They can click on it and actually do the tests. But
Okay.
it just helps them to kind of, and that's why I did this as a quick thing. They're less than 10-minute videos. So as they run into it, they can look at it again. Like, they do a lot of training too, but it's like, okay, I trained like months ago. How do I
Yeah.
do this again, right? So if they have it readily available, they can watch a 10-minute video. It's like, okay, I got this, and they can repair it very quickly and the right way the first time. Where they get into where they don't know what they're doing, then they start just replacing parts.
Yep.
And then it gets expensive for the fleets and the dealers, everybody, because it's like you just don't throw parts at it, and people know that, but it's like, okay, how do you do it? So that's kind of why I
Right.
came up with that.
So did you find that you kind of got all your experience just by like doing things at Horton, or did you have any like schooling background before you came in?
Well, my schooling background, actually, I did auto. I'm not quite sure what I want to do. So I did auto mechanics,
Okay.
I did diesel mechanics, I did robotics, which is an automated machine tool, and that's actually how I came to Horton, because there's a Horton Manufacturing as well, or was back in the day. Now it's called Nexon, but they were buying a robot that I was programming and working with in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, with the school there, and my instructor owned this robot. He was going to sell it to Horton. And so then I applied at Horton Manufacturing and say, hey, I know this robot inside and out. They were going to put it in their plants, implement it in their plants. And so when I sent my resume in, they said, hey, we're looking at all this automotive and diesel experience you have. Would you be consider taking the job on as a customer service, tech support
Yeah.
in the truck side? And I said, yeah, I need a job.
Yeah, I'm fresh out of college.
Fresh out of college to pay some bills. So, and it worked out. That's how I got into that job.
Was that in Roseville then, or was that in Britain?
That was actually in Minneapolis in our old facility
okay.
before we
Okay.
built this facility in Roseville in 2002.
Oh,
Have you
nice.
always been at, well, I guess Minnesota then, or have you been to our other plants and like lived there? For
I've been at
extensive-
corporate, but I've been to the plants quite a bit.
Okay.
Just because, especially when I had that product management role, I was out there all the time.
I'm
working
sure.
on prototypes and things. And I tried to still go out to the plants once in a while and help out. I'll work the line, over the holidays or whatever I can do. It's kind of fun because I get to know the people out there really well, and they appreciate the help.
They're great people.
They're great. Yeah.
We do have a really good team.
Yep.
Yes.
You said you traveled a lot as your project manager role. Where was your favorite place you traveled?
Well, I've actually traveled more in this job.
Okay.
And I'm going every week, going somewhere. Like I said, I've got the whole U.S. and Canada. So
Do you have
for
a
the
favorite
large fleets,
location?
favorite location? I don't know. I like Arkansas. I like Tennessee. I go out west. Get to Arizona. There's a lot of nice places. Yeah.
Nice.
Is it kind of hard traveling all the time for your job?
I don't mind it. I mean, some people, mind it, but I really don't. I've kind of got a little routine that I do, and I'm usually really busy. So I'll call, and I usually do about 2 fleet calls a day. But then
Okay.
you have to do all the follow-up, and by the time I get done, it's probably 6, 7 o'clock at night, and then I go to dinner. And,
Right.
I'll do some personal things, and then I get ready for the next day. And so it
Wow.
goes around really quick, and then I usually go out Monday through Friday, and yeah, I enjoy it.
Okay.
Nice.
Very cool. Well, I think that's all we have.
Thank you for talking with us.
Thank you so
You're welcome.
much. And tune in next time to Between Two Fans.